Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Kuf Samach Vav 166 in Baba Basra. We're on the home stretch. Mitzvah make a see him next week. So we said we'll start from, again, this parak is talking about all the various rules and regulations of shtarot, of documents, bills of sale, IOUs, get Isha. But here we're specifically talking about business transactions and deals. And the Mishnah said when there are things that are not clear, for example, if you wrote 100 zuz, he owes me 100 zuz, and you wrote, which is 20 sela. There's 4 zuz in a sela, so it really should be 100 zuz should be 25. So which did he mean? So we say you only get the minimal amount, because he could always say the guy could say, listen, you wrote down 20. You wrote down 20, not 25. Right? Because you said 20. You didn't say 25. So you always take the lower one. In other words, it's difficult. However, let's say sometimes there's a big difference. So the Mishnah said if there's a big difference, let's say at the beginning of the shtar you wrote down $100, and at the end you wrote down, and just to confirm, it's $200. Well, you can't make a mistake between $100 and $200. You make a mistake in a small amount. Now, for example, let's say 100 zuz, you say, which is 20 sela. Well, maybe they were old coins, so it was only worth less. Or maybe if you said 100, which is 30, maybe it was better coins. So you don't know, is it 100 zuz or is it 30 sela, which is 120 zuz? So you say, no, it's the smaller one. Right? You could always get away. But if it's a distance, the beginning of the shtar, you wrote 100, in the end 200, or vice versa, then you always take the last one, because you assume he changed his mind and he wrote it down at the end. Can't be in the last line, remember, because we never look at the last line. The last line can be forged, right? Because the Adam leave a little bit too much space. So you don't look at the last line, but before the last line, somewhere in the shtar, he wrote 100. Then later on, he wrote 200. You go with the later one because you assume he changed it. Now, tomorrow we'll talk about that more. Here we talked about what happens if he says the amount of money, said dollars, didn't say how many. What do you do? So Tanur Rabbanan we'll start from the Gemara, about 7 lines from the bottom of the page on yesterday's daf. Tanur Rabbanan, kesef. Let's say they said wrote down kesef, silver coins. Ein pachos mi dinner kesef. The small silver coin is a dinner. Okay. Kesef dinrin. Let's say he said it in plural. Silver coins, which are dinrin, which is more than 1 dinar, or v'dinrin kesef, mishnei dinrin kesef. You got to have at least 2, right? It said, if I said dollars, middle amount is 2. Couldn't be 1. Dollars means 2. Okay. Kesef bidinrin. Now, let's say he says, I'm giving you, or I'm borrowing from you, whatever the deal was, kesef for dinrin. Sounds like 2 different kinds of things. So what do you mean there? Ein pachas mishnei dinrin zov kesef. It means at least 2 golden, dove is like zahav, 2 golden coins worth of silver. In other words, how much silver coins? The amount that's worth 2 gold coins. The gold coins are worth more, obviously, than the silver coins, because he says "b," that extra word of kesef b. Okay, then the Gemara analyzes some remark kesef. He says kesef ain't pachos medin, or kesef got to be just 1. Manasa. Maybe I just meant silver. Melver silver metal, a silver bar. How do you know it means coins? Coins are usually worth more. Amar Abelazar, the kesef ben he wrote coins. Oh, the smallest silver coin could say is a dinner. Maybe it means pennies. How do you know it means like $1 or a dinar? Right? Dinar is like $1. Rashbam points out here like drachmono, right? That's the next word we're going to get when it comes to golden coins. Drachmon, which is drachma, is a an old, from the old days. That's what they called it in Greece or whatever. So the they didn't make, and it was a city. In some places they did make silver pennies, but in a city where they didn't normally make, like we have, like in our day, but pennies usually made out of copper, right? Copper or something. It looks like copper, but silver is usually had to be at least a nickel or a dime or a quarter. I don't know. Today they don't make it with any silver in it. I don't know what they do, but those are the smallest. So the small, there were no silver pretzels. So it had to be the smallest amount of a kesef is 1 dinar of kesef. Tan Rabbanan. Now let's look at gold. Dove, which is like zav, gold. Ain't pachos medinas. If you just wrote gold, I'm giving you a gold coin, or I'm borrowing from you, or whatever the deal was, or I'm buying from you for a deal for a gold coin. So the smallest one is a dinner gold. Dinner is of a golden dinner. Dov dinrin or dinrin dov. Let's say he said it in plural. Gold dinrin. So how much is the smallest amount of gold dinrin, plural? Gold dollars, let's say $2. Ain't pachos mishnei dinrin. The shader and dov. Okay, let's say he says again. Here we get to the same thing we had before with the kesef. Dov bid dinrin. Gold how am I giving you the gold in dinrin of another kind? Dove, gold with dinrin. How does that? Ein pachas mishnei dinrin kesef zav. It's got to be 2 dinner of kesef's worth of gold. I'm giving you gold, or I'm borrowing from you gold, or I'm selling you gold, whatever the deal was. What is it? It's gold for dinrin, meaning it's a different kind. So it's 2 dinrin of kesef worth of gold, right? 2 dinrin kesef worth of gold. Amar, let's analyze that. Dov ain't pachas medinner zav. You say if you just said gold, it's got to be at least 1 dinner gov. Amen. Asking, maybe it just means metal or bars. Maybe it means gold bar. Amar, let's look at some baby. Same thing we said before by kesef. At the top now of Kuf Samach of today's daf. Maybe it means gold pennies. It says priti dav law of the inchi, right? Law of the inchi. Nobody Rashi says anywhere. And when we talk about silver, he says certain places they do make pennies out of silver, but not in his place. Gold pennies, nobody makes pennies out of gold anywhere, so it can't mean that. Okay, so you say, fine, if I said gold, it means 1 din. If I said gold multiple, like gold dinrin, okay, that's $2. Then we get to the tough one. Zav bedinrin, if I say how much gold am I giving you or borrowing from you or lending you or whatever it was, Zav for dinrin, so it means something else. So he said it's dinner kesef. Ain't pachas mishnei dinner kesef. It's at least 2 dinner kesefs worth of zav of gold. Well, the ema. So if it means something else, so why do you say gold? How much gold am I giving you? Gold for dinrin. Why do you say it means 2 dinner kesefs worth of gold? Because we're talking about 2 different kinds, right? Gold for dinrin, for something else. How do you know it means kesef? How do you mean it means silver dinrin worth 2 silver dinrins of gold? Dava pricha betray dinre dava. I'll tell you what the 2 different items are. Maybe it means broken pieces of gold. How much worth? The worth 2 dinners of gold. Maybe that's what it means. Dava pricha betray dinre dava. Maybe it means that. Why do you say it means 2 silver dollars? Let's call it dinner dollars. That's easier to think away. Why do you say 2 silver dollars worth of gold? Maybe it's 2 golden pieces of broken metal worth of gold, which is worth more. You know what? The one who's owed the money, whatever the transaction was, he's got the lower hand because it doesn't say specifically. If you want to be specific, be specific. If it's not clear, you got clear. Like a guy says, like take the simple case. You owe me dollars. I meant $100, not $2. Yeah, but you said just dollars. Dollars can mean $2. You know, it could be the lowest one. The guy who has to pay the money, most of you got to prove him. So the one who has the star, he's got the lower hand because it didn't say clearly. Says the Gemara now. Now in place of the parentheses, Rashi and Rashbam and the Shas Bach, they all say it's not the way it's read, but rather ihochi reishanami. So in the first case too, when you said before the ad balashtar tachtona, right? You don't know what it means. So why don't you say in the Reisha also, when you talked about the silver? Take a look at Rashbam, the 4th line from the top of the page. Yachi Reisha Nami. Bein dirach price, whether you're talking about the first price kamaisa, Tiktani kesef bidinrin. We said kesef bidin. What is that? It's ein pachas mishtei dinrin zavka. 2 golden dollars worth of silver. That's these 2 golden dollars of silver. Why do you talk about golden dollars? Name a yad bal shaftan lefarish. Maybe it's silver pieces. 2 silver pieces worth of how much silver pieces is it? 2 dinner kesefs worth of silver pieces. In other words, if you're talking about, you say a dinner bekesef, in the first price it was kesef bidinrin. So it means how much silver coins? It's 2 golden coins worth of silver, two gold dollars worth of silver. Why say that? Maybe it's 2 broken pieces of silver. Maybe how much broken pieces of silver? 2 kesefs worth. Maybe it means 2 silver dollars worth of silver pieces, which is less than 2 golden dollars worth of silver coins. Maybe it means that. Again, if you're saying that it means that we say as well, yad bal shar tachtona. It's got the lower hand. So why before when we said kesef for dinner, you said how much kesef? 2 golden dollars worth of silver coins. 2 golden dollars. Why say 2 golden? Say it's 2 silver coins worth of broken pieces of silver, which is less than the 2 silver dollars. And Rashbam goes on, Ubein dahachmas nice, or this price, which says dov dinrin, or dinrin dov means 2 golden coins. Maybe it's 2 silver coins worth of gold. So if you always say the Yad Bal Shtar Tachtona, the guy who has the star and it's not clear, he's got the lower hand. Amar Rashi says, no, it's very simple. Reisha Dachsiv Dinri. When we said over there 2 golden coins worth of silver, it says dinri. Dinri means gold. Even though we say dinner means $1 or whatever it means, and dinrin means 2, but when he says dinri, that means gold. Dinrin means silver. You're making a difference between them. Even though it's plural, dinri is gold and dinrin is silver. Reisha the cost of dinri, sefer the cost of dinrin. So it can't be talking about in the sefer when he talks about the 2 silver coins worth of gold, because it says dinrin, so that's silver. So it can't be talking about anything else. And in the ratio, when he's talking about 2 golden coins worth of silver, it says dinri. So dinri is gold and dinrin is silver. Now, Manatem, how do you know this? Manatem, where do you get this idea, the shiny band dinri le dinrin? After all, with our fantastic knowledge of Aramaic grammar, we would say, listen, it all looks the same to me. Dinner is 1 and dinri or dinrin is 2. No, dinri is gold. Rashbam says the mashma dinri zav. But dinrin stam is the silver. Where do we get this idea? From the Tanya, from a totally different area. A woman who gives birth has to bring a carbon. The carbon is, it could be, if she can't afford it, let's say she brings birds, kan sipor, a pair of birds, shtei toran or shtei b'nei yonah, right? 2 birds. Now let's say a woman shayilach safek chamesh later safek. She had a suffix of whether she's chayiv or not. How was that? She miscarried, but the baby was, let's say it was 3 months old, of something that's viable. And in each case, every 3 months, she kept miscarrying. Now, it's after 80 days. When a lady gives birth, remember, until 80 days, if it's in the keva, there's 14 days of tumah, followed by 66 of tara. And afterwards, it's possible that she can give birth. If it's a boy, if you're talking about boys, you can't give birth if it's less than 40, 50 days, that's nothing. But if once it's 80 days, it's possible that it's a baby. But it was a miscarriage, it wasn't a baby that was going to survive. So she had 5 cases like that. She kept miscarrying every 4 or 5 months. And now, does she have to bring a carbon or not? We don't know if was it a baby that she's chayiv or not. So she had 5 cases, Shayah Safek Chamesh Leidos, or Safek Chamesh Zivos. She was a Zava. She lost track of her calendar, whether she was a Nida or a Zava. Nida is 7 days, Minatora, not like we have today, and 7 days, followed by 11 days of Ziva, where if she sees 3 days, during those 3 days, she has to, that's why we have the Yomei Tara today when we keep Zion Akim, because it's a suffix if she's a Zava. And a Zava, after she stops seeing Dam, she has to keep 7 days of Tara. Now, during those 11 days when she could become a Zava, if she saw Dam 3 days in a row, doesn't make it was 1 drop each day or gushed for 3 days. She saw 3 days in a row, she's a Zava, and she has to bring a carbon afterwards, after she keeps the Zion Akiyim subsequent to that. So here, this lady didn't know if she saw Dam during her Nida period, in which case, Minatora, if she's a Nida for 7 days, after the 7 days, she goes to the mikveh, there's no Yomei Tara there, and then she wouldn't be chayav a carbon. A carbon is only for a Zava, not for a Nida. She's not sure when she saw the dam. Every month or so, she saw 3 days in a row. And she wasn't sure if it was during the Zava period or during the Nida period. So in both these cases, whether it's a lady who miscarried 5 times, let's say, and she's not sure each time if it was a viable baby or not, or she was a suffix if she was a Zava or Nida, she's chayiv bring karbonos there also. Mavia karbonecha. Now, in other words, she's really chayiv to bring 5 sets of karbonos, misafik, right? But she doesn't bring 5 sets of karbonos, because the truth is, when you bring the 2 birds, one is ola, one is a chatos, and ola is totally burnt. Right? A chatos is eaten by the kohen, but this where it's a suffix, it's called suffix chatos, abola suffix, chatos which comes from a suffix, maybe there's no carbon there at all. She's not chayav a carbon, it's chulum bazar, so it's not eaten by the kohanim, and it's trashed. So what does she do in a case like that? She brings 1 carbon. Mavia carbon, in other words, one set, either case, either for Zava 5 times or for later 5 times, she brings 1 carbon echad, and then she is purified. She can eat carbonos afterwards. She doesn't bring the other one. She has to bring 5 times. one time is enough. And the svara is, it's like a person who's tamei many, many times, and he had no access to a mikveh. And now he has access to a mikveh. He goes to the mikveh. Does he have to go 5 times to the mikveh? If he purified himself once, he's purified. And that's the same thing over here. Okay, that's the rule there. So she brings 5 zivas now. What does all this have to do with us, with dinner and dinner? We'll see. But let's say though she actually gave birth 5 times. 5 times she never had a chance to come to Yerushalayim to bring karbanos after her birth. So she's chayav 5 times. Or so she had to bring karbanos for being a zava 5 times. She could bring, when she brings 1 karban. Karban means 2 birds. Then she brings the carbon, and that chatas is eaten by the kohanim, obviously, because it's a real chatas. And the rest she's responsible for. In other words, she is like if you committed 5 sins over a period of time, every time you remind, oh, I forgot I ate chaylev, oh, I made a mistake, I bring a carbon for that, and you have to bring 5 times. So you have to chayav for karbanos. Now, to purify yourself in order to be able to eat kachim, whatever, you have to bring 1 carbon, but you still owe the other ones. You still owe the other ones too, right? Not like the case of the mikveh. So if it's a suffix, you're not sure if you gave birth or not, you're suffix if you were a zav or not. You bring, even if it's 5 times or 10 times, whatever it was, bring 1 and that's good. You don't have to bring any more. But if you were chayiv for sure, then you have to. It was one of the Tanoim wrote down, he made a mistake and he's chayiv a carbon. He wrote himself a note, so when Mashiach comes and we have karbanos again, he's gonna basically make sure we until he'll bring a carbon. Okay. Maisa, so what happened? There was a story of Amdu people. There were so many people, so many women had to bring birds. There was a big demand on birds. And what happens when there's a big demand on bird? The price goes way up, right? Amdu kinim Yerushalayim bedin rezav. A pair of birds in Yerushalayim cost din rezav. Din rezav. You see, din re means gold coins. That's where you get it from. So din re means zav, gold. That's how we know that din re means gold, because he tells you that they were so expensive. Amr Shmuel got very upset because the price had gone too hard. The rabbis were always concerned about price gouging, etc. Hamonazar, I swear, but I'm Mikdash. If I won't go to sleep tonight, I shall be dinrin until a pair of birds will not cost a gold dinner, but will cost a silver dinner, substantially less. I shall be dinrin. Nichnas the Bezdin, he went to the Bezdin, Velimer, and he taught this halacha. Even if you're chayav 5 times for sure, you had 5 births for sure, or 5 those for sure. Even if she's chayav 5 times, she didn't get a chance to bring a carbon yet, but she's chayav each time. She just brings 1 carbon, that's it. Oh, now there's not going to be such a demand anymore, because now even the women who are really chayav from carbon, they don't have to. Why? Because that idea, it's like going to the mikveh. If you were tamei many times, you went to the mikveh once, you're tar. So what do you see? You see from here, he says, I swear, I swear by the Beis Hamikdash, there won't be any more din rezav, but it'll only be dinrin. And dinrin stam means kesef. And that's like va'amdu, and then va'amdu kinim be'abiyam b'rasayim. That day, the price went down that it wasn't even a dinner, it was a quarter of a dinner, a quarter of a silver dinner. So there you see this idea, and that's pshat in the brisa. Okay, the Mishnah had said, as we said before, let's say you wrote an amount above and a different amount above in the shtar. It was an IOU, a bill of sale, whatever it was some transaction. And it wasn't like something that could be mistaken. Like you see, if I say, I'm selling you, we said at the beginning of the Mishnah, 100 zuz, which is 20 sela. Oh, wait a minute. 100 is really 25 sela. Okay, you get the smaller amount. Maybe you meant lousy coins. Or if I say 100 zuz, which is 30 sela, 30 sela should be 120 zuz. Yeah, but you said 100. Get the lower amount. Maybe that was okay. That's because you can mistake between you can be related. But if it's a big difference, and you said at the beginning $200, and you said $100 at the end, you go by the bottom one because you mean changed his mind, and he only did 100 at the bottom. Okay, Tanarabana. And so we say, if that's the point, wait a minute. If that's the point, why would you have a different amount? Why have an amount at the top and an amount at the bottom? Just have an amount at the bottom. Just say near the end. Can't be the last line, because last line we don't learn anything from. But before the last line, just write the amount there. Why say the amount at the top? You know why? It's better to have the amount at the top too, because if, let's say, one letter is scratched out or is obliterated for a reason, you can learn the bottom is what's koveya. The bottom amount is what is decisive, because if you change your mind or whatever, that's the amount that you meant. But why have an amount at the top? In case a letter is missing from the bottom, one letter is missing, you can learn that from the top. That's the idea, Yomod Elyam, Yomod Tachtam and Elyam. In case, that's what the Mishnah said. Why even have it then? The Mishnah said, Kosav Echad Mamala Mon. Let's say you wrote above 100 and below 200. Or Mamal 100 or 200 at the Mamal Masayim, Mamal Tamon at the 200 at the top, 100 at the bottom. So why do you even write the top one at all? Because if one letter gets obliterated from the bottom one, you'll see, you'll learn from the upper one. So the bottom one, which is decisive, in case one letter is missing, you'll pick it up from the top one, right? Only one letter. Two letters is different. Now, what do we talking about at the top? The top could mean the amount of money. The top could mean who are the parties involved. Reuben and Shimon, whoever they are. Kagom, Chanan and Chanani. So let's say there's a creditor and a debtor, and the debtor's name was Chanani. That's what's written at the top. And in the bottom is written Chanan. So who's he going after, Chanan or Chanani? Let's say the book. So the answer is that only one letter is missing. Chanan from Chanani, only the yud is missing. So you know what? If at the top it's written with the yud, and at the bottom it's written at the bottom of the yud, we could learn out the lower one from the top one, meaning that the baldin, whether it's the creditor or the debtor, we're going after Chanani, because even though at the top it says Chanan, maybe the yud was scratched out, or Va'anan Me'anani, if that was his name. So the Gemara says, why you only replace one letter? In other words, or if the amount was amount of money, one letter missing, one letter more, you only replace one letter. Again, the reason why you rate it at the top is in case the bottom one gets obliterated by one letter, you'll replace it from the bottom one. You'll look at the bottom one. Okay, you'll look at the top one rather. If the bottom one is missing and the bottom one is someone's decisive, you'll pick it up from the upper one. But only one letter, not two. So Gemara says, why not two letters? Because maybe the guy's name will have 4 letters. Now you're picking up half the name from the bottom one, from the top one rather. In other words, if the guy's name is only 4 letters, right? It's 4 letters, and you're saying if 2 letters are missing, you're not going to learn the bottom from the top, because the top had 4 letters. Let's say Hanani. Let's say his name is Hanani, and you take off both the chet and the yud. Right, and the at the bottom, all you have is nun. You don't have the chet of the yuds. You're going to pick up from the top both the chet and the yud. You got 2 letters. That's half the name. So why do you say you can't replace Dilmas? Because Dilmas Rabbi Shem Ben Avs, because maybe the name will only have 4 letters. You're going to replace half the name from the top. One letter also nami. Dilma Misrami Shem Ben Shtei Osios. Let's say the guy's name is Dan or Ran, right? So also there, if at the top is written Ran and at the bottom is just written Ra without the nun, you're gonna replace you're gonna say, well, at the top there's a nun there, so at the bottom there's a nun there too. That's also half the name. The reason why you can't have 2 letters, you can't replace 2 letters. Maybe you'll have a name with 3 letters. Let's say his name is Levi, right? Levi is 3 letters, right? And if all you have is Lamed at the bottom and the top says Levi, you're going to replace the Vav and the Yud from the top. His name is Levi, it's what it says at the top. And at the bottom it just says Lamed, right? So you're going to take 2 letters from the top, the Vav and the Yud, and replace it at the bottom. That's most of the name. You're replacing most of the name. Probably Ruba to Shema. Ruba to Shema is already no good. That's why we say you can only replace 1 letter, not 2 letters. So if there's 2 letters missing, then the document is no good. You can't collect with it. Amra Papa. Shitali, listen to this. Let's say he says, Shitali, Sefel Mamal. Let's say Sefel. Sefel is a bowl, right? So let's say at the top he says Sefel. And somewhere in when we say top, I don't mean the very top line or the first word. We mean, he says, what did I borrow from you? A golden bowl. Okay, well, you owe me a golden bowl, right? And the couple mat, at the bottom it says couple. Couple means to fold, it means like an article of clothing. So which one is it? Now there's a confusion over here, right? What do you say? Now, there, Sefel is 3 letters and Kapel is 3 letters. The Pei Lamed are the same. The question is, at the bottom it says Kefel, right, with a kuf. And at the top it says Sefel. Is that the same thing? do you just say hakol olach tachton, right? So you look at the bottom one. Why? Because the bottom one has the kuf. Well, the kuf couldn't have been a samach. How could the kuf, right? If the top says sefel and the bottom says kefel, so kefel, which is like to fold something, that couldn't be confused with sefel. There's no way. So therefore, you look at the bottom one, and he owes him only an article of clothing, not a bowl. Because again, we look at the bottom. The bottom is always koveya, and there's no way the two could have been confused. By Rapapa, what about the other way around? What happens if it's kefel milamala? Above it was kefel, the sefel milamata, and at the bottom it's sefel. Now, I'm explaining something to you that the Mefarshim say. Apparently, in those days, the kuf, what is a kuf comprised of? It's got the right side, which is like a reish or a dalet or something, or even more than that, because it comes around. It's more like a chaf, right? It looks more like a chaf. And then you have like the nun, right? The left part of it apparently was attached in those days. Not necessarily in the Torah, but the way people would write it, that they would write the vertical part of the kuf was connected. So now the question was, the kuf really could be like a samach with a little bottom part on it there also. So if Papa's question is, let's say you had kefel milamala, the sefel milamata, right? And the sefel milamata, do you say it's sefel, the golden bowl, or is it the garment? Michashin l'zvuv, are you concerned that maybe a fly attached itself to the bottom part of the kuf, the long part, and it erased the bottom part of the kuf so that the kuf now looks like a samach? Why does the kuf look like a samach? Because again, if the vertical part of the kuf, that long line, which is like a nun, right? Like a nun sofiz, if it was attached to the top part, but it has a bottom part, extending below, and maybe a fly doesn't add on anything. A fly only removes something, Mefarshim say. So is that a samach or not? Kefel mal v'sefel milamata. So is it? What do you say? Is it really sefel? That's koveya? Or do you say no? It's really kefel, but a fly took that off. So boy, Papa kefel milamala, the sefel milamata mai. Are you concerned about a zvuv? So it was really a kefel, and a zvuv took it away. Oh, lo, right? Or not? Or do you say that no, you're not concerned about that, and therefore, if it said sefel at the bottom, it wasn't a kuf, it wasn't kefel at the bottom that a fly might have taken it away. In other words, it wasn't kefel at the top and kefel at the bottom, but the fly took away the bottom part of the kuf, and therefore it looked like sefel, and he owes him a golden bowl instead of a garment. Or do you say not? Do you say that it was really kefel and kefel, or really sefel at the bottom, and he does owe him the golden gold? That question stands. Now, saying we don't know. We don't know how to judge it. We say the bottom is koveya, but maybe over here the bottom was really kefel, that the fly took away the little part of that of the at the bottom. Now, here's interesting. Here's a very interesting Rashi over here. Rashi, let's start with the michashin l'zvuv. Are you concerned about a fly? Rashbam is about halfway down on the page. Shechisa ragel shel kuf. A fly took away the bottom part of the kuf, and nasa samachem samach. So maybe here also we should learn from the upper one, and the upper one is kefel. That's the question. Kefel is kefel. Or do you say no? You're not concerned about that. The top is kefel, the bottom is sefel. He owes him a sefel. Take the question stands. So here Rashbam says, like he says often, by comes to teku, we can't decide it. The one who's trying to take it from the one who's taken away from the muhsik, he has to bring the proof. To keep it the mistapik dina lebeidina, since Bezin doesn't know, Bezin doesn't know how to paskin. So how could they take it away from the one who's holding on to it? It's not compared to Mamad Safik where we say cholkin. Where do you say Mamad Safik cholkin? The kaimlon cholkin. The hasam ikra masa and yadulana. There's no way to know. Like the case of what? Remember, I'll trade you my chamor for your para, right? And then when we come to, right, so you pull the chamor, right? You pull the chamor and I get the para. And we go to the para, we see the baby was next to the para. So was the baby born before the deal or after? We don't know. There's no way to know. You don't know if he damaged him before, if he killed the para before he gave birth or after him. So we're going what we just had recently. The house fell down on him and on his mother, right? There were she had no other children. The question was, did she die first and he inherited her, right? He inherited her, and therefore he could even give it to his brothers because it wasn't like, he's not inheriting his mother in the grave. He lived a second longer than her. So he survived. Or you say he died first and the mother's family, the mother's brothers, whatever, would inherit her. No way to know. So in a case like that, Hilkach posting Bezna and Esadin Shiachloku, because Bezna says we can't even decide this. There's no way to know the facts of the case. When it comes up with a teku, we don't know how to paskin. Since they don't know how to paskin, they would be quiet. So we can't decide this case. So there's two different kinds of questions. One is there's no way to know what happened. No way to know what happened. Split it. But if there's a way to know what happened, we just don't know how to paskin it. Then you say Hamotzi Mechavero Olav Haraya. Back in the Gemara. Hahu, 5 lines from the bottom page in the Gemara. Listen to this. There was a document. These are all questions about, right? How do you deal with a document where you're not sure? Well, dollar, you don't know. $2. Is it $2? Is it more? We don't know. So you always go lower one. Here is a document that says 600 and $1. 600 what and $1? It's just a 600 and $1. Again, if you would say $600 and $1, that's $601. But he says 600 and $1. So what is it? What is it? Shalcha Rav Shapiro made Rabbi. He sent the scripture for Rabbi. Says Shismeya Istri v'Zuzi. Is it 600 Istri? Istri is a half a zuz, so it's like $300 and $1. 300 like 600 half dollars and $1. Odum Shismeya Prite v'Zuza. Maybe it's 600 pennies and $1. Now, bear in mind, there's 192 pennies in a dollar in a dinar. A dinar, which is their dollar, let's say, is 192. So maybe you need 600 pennies. Which one? Just a 600 and $1 in a zuz, or $1. Zuz and dinar are the same, right? 600 and $1. So what is it? Is it 600 half zuz and $1, or maybe 600 pennies? So Amrlay, so Abaye said, look, dal prita, forget about prita. It's not pennies. The lo kosfi b'shtara. They don't write pennies in a star. Dasuchi misakin. They make a misakim. They add them up. In other words, it's like saying, if I owe you $3.50, would I write down 350 pennies? No, you don't write that. You owe me $3.50, right? That's how you write it, right? You don't say 350 pennies. So here also, you don't write pennies if it's more than a zuz worth of pennies, 192. So in this case, 600. If it would be 600 pennies, and a zuz 600 pennies would be a little bit more than, it would be more than 3 zuz, but you would write down zuz. So it can't be pennies, right? Mishavi zuzi. Marma, what could it be? Shismeya is stira v'zuzah. It could be, according to one shot in Rashbam, it could be 600 half zuzas or half dollars and $1, because yad balashtal tachtona. Because what else could it be? You're not going to say it's 600 zuz and a zuz, so say it's 600 half zuz and a zuz. That's one way to learn. It says Rashbam from the top of the page. Isteri is, Rashbam says, is slaim. Now, sell is 4 zuz. Let's see what he means. So Rashbam goes on, Yad Bal Shtal Tachtona, Veleso Ela Istiri. He's Istri. Din and Kol Istiri, Pal Gazuzah. That's all he gets. Kashpir of Shrach. Rabbeinu Chanal brings down, Rashbam constantly quotes Rabbeinu Chanal. So he gets 600 half zuzas and a zuz. Venir Ali, the Zuzi Yakabel. Rashbam says, I think he's going to get 600 zuz. The Astira of Islam. He makes them Istri with a Yud in between the Aleph and the Samach, or Astri. He says, the Astri of Islam, or Sel, which is 4 zuz. V'yesh b'chol echad arba dinner. So Abai, Avostire Pshite Inu, Vadai Have Palgazas. Those are half zuz, the Hainu Sel Medina. So he said over here, it's like he's saying that what could it be? What could it be? It could be 600 Istri, maybe without the Yud. So that's like, or maybe with the Yud of Rashbam. Maybe it means Istri, which are sellas, which are more than that. Maybe even 600 of sellas, which is 4 dinners each or 4 zuz each. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's only half zuz. In other words, we're not sure if the Istri refers to over here is the kind that's a sella, which is 4 zuz, or it's a half a sella, or a half a zuz rather. And a sella, or what they call that's a sella tsuri, is 4 zuz, or a sella medina, which is the same as a half a zuz. So therefore, since it's not clear, the guy can only collect the lower amount, like we saw in all these cases. When it's a suffix, how much you're supposed to get, and the document's not clear. Here it says 600 and a zuz, maybe it's only 600. It can't be pennies, because nobody would write 600 pennies. But it could mean half zuz, and that's all he's going to get. Either way, that's all he's going to get is a half zuz, 600 half zuz. Amar Abaya. A man needs to register his signature at the court, right? For many reasons. Rashbam brings down an interesting case where Reuben and Shimon signed on a star. We've had this in many places. Reuben and Shimon signed on a star. And you have to verify their signatures. Now, Shimon died in between. So Reuben could testify about Shimon's signature with another person, right? Right. Right. And Reuben can testify about his own signature. He can confirm his own signature. But if he confirms his own signature, and with Shimon, he's, so to speak, confirming with another guy, so it comes out that 3/4 of the star is confirmed through one person, through Reuben. Because Reuben, you can confirm your own signature, and you can confirm Shimon's with another guy. But then you're doing half of Shimon's with the other guy, and you're doing all of yours. And that's 3/4 of the stars confirmed through one person. That's not good. So what do? You send in your signature to court on a piece of paper, on a document, and the court will confirm your signature by comparing the signatures. And then you can testify with Reuben with somebody else about Shimon's signature. So you're not confirming your half at all. The court is doing yours. So there are many reasons why you would send in your signature to the court, so the court could have on record what your signature looks like, and the court could verify it. So he says, if you have to do the if you want to show your signature to the court for whatever reason, court runs, because you shouldn't write your signature at the bottom of the scroll. You got a piece of paper here. Don't write your signature at the bottom, for the obvious reason that some not righteous person, let's say it nicely, a forger, a not righteous person might find the document, right, on the way he sent it in, and write on the top whatever he wants. This guy owes me, $100. And if you sign it yourself, you might write, I owe this man $1 million, and I signed it, my own signature. That's good enough to collect with. You can't collect from the Chasim Shabbat, you can't collect from real estate, but he can collect from, if I happen to have $1 million at the bank, he can go after it. So be careful. Don't write it at the bottom of the scroll. Maybe somebody else will find it, some not righteous, unrighteous person, because of the Masik Bezuzi, and write on it, I owe this guy $1 million. If I have a star that you yourself signed, no Adam, but you yourself wrote on it, I owe you this amount of money. So be careful. Don't write it. Don't sign. If you have to give a sample of your signature, don't put it at the bottom of the scroll. There was a tax collector. That's the kind of Bai came before Bai, said, listen, I want to do good for all the rabbis, and the rabbis always get a clergy discount. Please write down your handwriting, give me your signature, so that the Chiyasu Rabbanan, when the rabbis come with a document that they're from this yeshiva, they have a document from the yeshiva, they don't have to go to the army and all that. They have from this yeshiva signed by the rabbi. You could let this guy pass and he doesn't pay the taxes. He's a rabbi, right? So so if I have your signature on file, I'll keep your signature on file, and I compare when they bring me a document that says, here the rabbi says, the Rosh Yeshiva said that let this rabbi pass, let this Talmudical student pass without paying the taxes, without paying the meches, it'll be good. When they show me this document, like a confirmation that they are, some sort of a document, a tu'udah, that they come from the yeshiva with your signature on it, I'll let them pass without paying the taxes, without paying the customs. Why don't you give me your signature so I'll do it? So he already suspected something. This rabbi came before Abaye, and Abaye suspected that maybe he's just trying to rook him. So Achvile Bereish Milsa, he started to write Abaye started to write his signature at the top of the scroll, so couldn't forge him. But the tax collector started pulling the document so that Abaye would be signing it in the middle or near the bottom of the scroll. He says, here, can you sign here? And Abaye was about to sign at the top, and he kept pulling it so that Abaye's signature would be further down. And, so Abaye suspected. Omelay says, the rabbis already preceded you, meaning they already warned me, don't put your signature at the bottom or the middle of a document where somebody could write on it, I owe this guy money, and then your signature is there, and it looks like you owe him the money. I'm Rabbi. Don't write the number 3, from 3 till 10. Don't write that at the bottom, at the end of a document, right? Don't write the number from 3 to 10 at the bottom of a document, at the end of the line, rather. At the end of the line, don't write down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Why? Because if you write down 3, they can make it 30. just add a zero there, right? If you write, right? So if you write down any of these numbers, you can just add a zero to it. Why? Dilma Mazaya for Kosav, because maybe a guy will forge something. And right. The Isramile. Now, why not more than that? Because if you write Achadasar, right? Achadasar, what is he going to add? Achad ve'esrim, make the Esr into Esrim. He has to write, if he would make it like Achad ve'esrim, he's got to put a vav in there. He's got to put a stick of vav in there. And that already looks like it's forged. It was stuffed in there. But if you just write the number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, they could just add another digit afterwards and forge it.
It's on the check sheet after you put in the amount.
Yeah.
In writing.
Yeah.
Put a line.
You put a line. Right. Well, I remember this had this in the old days when $5 was a big donation, and a guy would come to the door. This is when I lived in America. I gave him a check. I had given him a check, for $5 over some stucker, it's stucker. They come to the door, they're marrying off somebody or whatever it was. Comes back a year or two later with a photocopy of the check, and it says 50 because he had changed it. To added the zero in. So, and I knew in those days I couldn't afford to give somebody at the door $50. That was a substantial amount of money. So I went back to my bank records, and of course I proved it was only 5. So I don't know what I did. I don't remember if I shut the door on or whatever. But and then they did that anyway. This is what they could do. You avoid. Obviously, I didn't write it. I left enough space that he could put a zero in there. Without it. Maybe the English. I don't remember. Maybe on 5 he changed it to 50. Yeah, maybe the words. I don't remember. I remember he stuck a zero in there and said, "You gave me $50." They always say that last time you gave me so much. They always that's always say, "Can't you give more?" Or last time you gave me so much and so much. Anyway, so that's what happened here. He says, "Listen, if you write at the end of a line and you have to write the number 5 or 6 or 7, be careful. You can make it. You can turn it into a bigger number." The instrument, if it happens at the end of the line, you have no choice. Then then keep writing it. Write again, and I confirm that it's $3, or I confirm again it's $3. So if you confirm it again, then you're writing it below the first time. And if you do it 2 or 3 times, obviously it's going to come out in the middle of the line somewhere. And we always take the lower amount, as we learned in the Mishnah. You take not the lower amount, we take the amount that's written later on in the document. If you repeat it several times, obviously it's going to come out in the middle of the line somewhere, and then it won't be easily forged. How do you know it can't be easily forged? From some examples here. A man wrote, "I've sold him a third of my orchard." Tilsa bit pardisa, right? And Rashbam explains that he wrote down beginai, that because, right, take a look at Rashbam, the first of the wide lines in Rashbam. Not the widest near the bottom, but the one when they turn wide first time. Begins, in my garden, I sold him this in my garden that I have. I sold him a third of my partis, of my orchard. Now, what did he do? Listen carefully. He wrote tilsa bit pardisa. Look back in the Gemara. In my garden, I'm selling tilsa pardisa. He took the bays, the first letter of the word bit pardisa, and he cut off the top and the bottom of the bays. What are you left with? Above. Okay. So also machke lagage the base. He cut off the roof of the base, the top, the kare, and the foot of the base. Right? Vishavi, and he turned it to upardisa. Right? And I'm selling him in my garden and the partis, meaning I'm selling him a third. Tilsa in my garden, a third, meaning a third of my garden, and the whole partis. Not a third of my orchard in my garden. I'm selling him in my garden a third and the whole partis. Okay, but now think about it. When he took off the top and the bottom of the bays, it's left with upardisa, but there's a little bit of space between the vav and the pei. Azlakam came for Abaya. Abaya was sharp, right? He knew these tricks that sign at the bottom of the page instead of the top. I'm like, my time why does that vav have so much space around it? He suspected that vav has a lot of space around it. Kuf say he tied him up or he forced him. He pressured him, voting the guy was moda that he had forged it. Now, you have to be careful. And here in a reverse case, manas Reuven v'Shimon achi. I bought from the family the shares of Reuven and Shimon, who are brothers. And as I bought both Reuven and Shimon's share, these brothers. But they had a third brother whose name was Achim. They had a third brother, Reuben, Shimon, and Achi. That was his name. Everybody calls me Achi. Oh, Achi. They always call me Achi. They always call me brother, right? So that was his name, brother. Also, Kasvei Be V. So he wrote the shares of Reuben, Shimon, not Achi, who are brothers, but rather Ve Achi. He put in a vav there. Now he's stuck in a vav, right? He's stuck in a vav. I got the shares of Reuben, Shimon, and Achi, whatever it was. He bought those shares. V'shavei Ve'achi. Oskim came for a buy. Amalei. My time of Dachli Amal High Vav. Why is that vav so crunched in there, right? Because he stuck it in there. There wasn't much space, right? He wrote Reuben and Shimon brothers, and he put in and brothers, like V, right? Kapsa again, he forced him, he tied him up, whatever. Only was Moda. Okay, so you got to be careful. The rabbis were smart. Listen to this. The star was signed by Rava, Ravacha Barada. Rava and Ravada Barava both signed on this document. And the star and Oskim came for Rava. And he says, look, there's a document of you're signed on that. You know, Yankel owes me $100, and you guys are signed on it. You, Rabbi, Rava, and Ravacha. You're right. This signature does look like mine, Rava says. Yeah, it looks like mine. It does look like, I admit this looks like my signature, but I never remember signing together with Ravada Barava anything. I've never signed anything together with him. So this looks pretty funny. Say again, he tied him up, he pressured him, but Odin was Moda that he forged the whole document. Amalei, so he says, listen, you're a pretty good forger. I can understand you forged my signature. You saw it on some other document and you forged it. Ella the Ravacha Barada, but Ravada Baracha, the Rosas Yade, he had a shaky hand. Have a shaky hand. They can't, and it's his handwriting is very, shaky. That's how it looks. I don't know how else to describe it, right? How'd you do that? He says, I'll tell you how I did it. I put my hand, I held on to the rope of a rope bridge. The rope bridge, and they used to have like a piece of wood crossing across a small bridge, and they would hold on to the rope going across. So that's always shaking because people are holding it. So I held on to it as I was writing, and that caused me to make it that way. Or he stood on a water hose, which was shaking. My whole body shook, and I shook. He says, that's how I did it. Now, interesting thing here. Rava says, what comes out? No, these are not just stories. They're interesting. They're halachas. You got to be careful. Look when something is forged. If something too much space is written around the vav, or too little space is written before it. So what happened in this last case? An interesting case. Why? Because Rava said that does look like my signature, but I never remember signing with Ravada Barava. So therefore, what happened over here? So he forced him to admit that the guy forged the whole thing. Let's say he wouldn't have admitted that he forged the whole thing. Would it have been good or not? Apparently it would have been good. It was only no good because he admitted it. So this shows you, says the Ritva, that if your signature's on something, it doesn't mean you have to remember that took place. He says, listen, it does look like my signature. I just don't remember ever signing with him. So what? You have to remember everything you signed on? People tell me now, I signed on this will. I don't remember doing it, but if my signature's there, that's good enough. So the Ritva says like this. He says, Shamina mehacha di'i lav da'odei. If he wouldn't have been molded, if the forger, the crook, wouldn't have been molded that he forged it, even though you didn't remember this, I never remember signing with him. So you didn't remember. A lot of things you don't remember. You think you remember everything? Not like the Rambam Zal, the one who's signing on his own. This is the one who's testifying. Yeah, that does like my signature. He has to remember the Maisa. It's not a Maisa, and he doesn't hold that way. So here you have a machlok in the Rambam. The Rambam says when you say, yeah, that's my signature, you have to remember that you signed on this document. Otherwise, it's not Makuyim. Ritva says, no, you don't remember everything. That looks like my signature, right? Forgers are good. Okay, we'll pick it up tomorrow. Have a good day. Shavuot tov l'kulam.
Shavuot tov.